Hi, it's Roger here with episode 14 of Entrepreneur TV, and today I am in Prague, as you can see from the beautiful architecture behind me. And I am here to speak to the amazing entrepreneurs here in Czech Republic. We have a number of talks that are coming up in the coming week, and I want to share the 14th of the principles on how to 10 times your impact, which is actually relevant when it comes to all of these buildings here, many of which are like 500 years old plus, which is, what's your legacy going to be 500 years from now? This 14th principle is all about how to 10 times your impact, and is called 10 times growth. We have, over the last 13 different episodes, gone through how do you make sure that you can, first of all, get focused on your ikigai, which is all about your purpose, your passions, your talents. And now we're going to take that next step, big jump forward, which is going through every single one of the different steps to 10 times your growth. The impact meter. We talked about the impact meter earlier, and how the impact meter actually allows you to go from 1 customer to 10 customers to 100 to 1,000. So this is exponential growth, like going each step 10 timesing where you're at before. We're living in a world today where trying to just increase by like 10% just doesn't do it anymore. And I want to share on this video exactly why that is, and why it is so important for us to be thinking exponentially instead of thinking linearly. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to tell you a story. And then after I told you the story, I'm going to share some really exciting news on some things that are going to be happening in the coming months, which I would love you to be part of as well. Because I think that this is going to be a huge year for all entrepreneurs, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, so first of all, the story. So this is a story about how most of us, with our brains thinking linearly, do not think exponentially, and the results of what you miss out when you're not thinking exponentially. It's a story about the beginning of chess. So here's how the story goes. The inventor of chess is invited to meet the king of India, right? And this is because the king's so impressed by this new game chess. He's like, all right, I'm going to meet this inventor. Meets up with the inventor and says, look, I love your game so much, I'm willing to pay you anything for the game. So basically the inventor goes, well, very simple, I'm a humble man. I just want you to give me 1 grain of wheat on the first of the 64 squares on the chessboard, and then give me 2 on the second one, and then double it to 4 on the third one. Just keep on doubling it, and that's what I'm asking for all 64 squares of the chessboard. So the king's like, oh, what a humble man, you know, all he wants is like a bit of wheat, no problem at all, you can go ahead and do that. And he speaks to his court and he says, you guys just go get him the wheat. That's when the accountant comes back and says, bit of a problem. Turns out by the time you get to the 64th square, that's more wheat than the entire size of Mount Everest. I mean, basically, it's more wheat that's ever been created in the history of man. And so obviously King's like really upset about this and chops off the inventor's head. And that's the story. And this whole idea that we totally misunderstand how rapidly exponential growth grows, this whole idea is actually playing out in the world today. In fact, in the first half of the chessboard, if you keep on doubling, by the first half, you don't even notice the growth. By the time you get to the 32nd square, you're still only at around the size of a large field of wheat. But by the time you get to the end of the second half of the square, that's when things get really, really crazy. And it turns out that Moore's law, if you think about it starting about the 1950s, and it basically doubles every 18 months. That's the speed of computing power. It means that we actually hit the second half of the chessboard in the year 2006. So this is why that in Silicon Valley, they talk about the times we're in right now as being the second half of the chessboard. I mean, 2006 was when social media started, is when the first iPhone came out, is when we actually started basically seeing all these incredible technologies start to appear, from self-driving cars through to AI, and all of this is a result of the second half of the chessboard. So we're going through this exponential growth of technology, whether you like it or not. Whereas you then have buildings around here that have been around for 500 years. So what's going on? And more importantly, why is it important to us right now? So as many of you know, when I was in Cambridge, I got inspired to go from building buildings as an architect to building the future as a futurist, and building companies as an entrepreneur. That for me was inspired by a man called Buckminster Fuller, who himself was a futurist and an architect. And Buckminster Fuller talked about something called the final exam. And he talked about this way back in the 1970s, before the internet, before mobile phones. And he said that we already have enough technology to solve all the world's biggest challenges. He said, you know, if you think of all the challenges in the world, there are actually distribution problems. Like when we say that there isn't enough food because there's people who have hunger, there is enough food, it's just not distributed well. Or there's not enough money because people are in poverty. There actually is more than enough money, it just isn't distributed properly. So technology allows us to distribute all of these things. Why haven't we solved all the world's problems then? He said it's because that human consciousness has not yet accelerated fast enough to catch up with that technology. And we will pass this exam if we figure out ways to increase the acceleration of our human consciousness to capture all this technology and then use it for good, and we solve all the world's problems, or we won't, which means technology will continue to accelerate beyond our ability to be able to catch up with it, and eventually will destroy us, which is why it's the final exam. There's no more exams after this. And that really had such an impact on my life, hearing that, and knowing that I was living in a very, very special time where it was up to every one of us to figure out ways to shift our consciousness, to be 10 timesing our consciousness through the value that we're having, that we had to make that shift, and entrepreneurship is the biggest way that you can actually make that shift. So that's what I've been doing. That's what the impact meter is all about. When you look at this impact meter, in the coming weeks, we're going to actually go through every single one of these steps, from one customer to 10 customers to 100 customers. We're going to do that until we see the world in a whole different way. Look, I've just actually come into the main old town square here in Prague. So here we are. It's early morning, not a lot of people around right now. And this idea of seeing the world differently, where you actually see it from a space where you were like down a narrow alley, as we were right there, and you can only see like one way to go, to basically where there's multiple opportunities in life where you can actually go in every direction. That's what it is to be an entrepreneur that has multiple opportunities at any one time, that has multiple resources coming their way. It's like being the city square as opposed to going down a narrow alley. And the fundamental key to all of this is that this is what happens when we start to play a game. So one of the things that Buckminster Fuller talked about is he talked about the world game, and it's what we're going to start playing in the coming months. So as well as us actually going through how to 10 times our income and our impact, we're actually going to do it. So what is the world game? So Buckminster Fuller said that he believes that the only way we're going to solve these problems and increase our consciousness and do what humans do, which is play games. He said that we, as a species, love to have fun, and we also need to have rules. If we can figure out a way to collaborate on a game which allows us to solve all the world's problems together, why would we not do it? He never actually set up the rules globally for us to all to play this game, but I believe that we're in a position now where we can actually do this. So we're going to start the game. It's going to be starting on the 10th of June when we have our Global Entrepreneur Summit in Brisbane, and we are going to be playing the game for 6 months, 2018 until the 10th of December, and that is the date of the 70th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, which basically means that this is like 70 years that we have actually treated all of humanity as one. And this is really, think about that, this is really only the first generation in which we've actually seen our global humanity as one humanity. And so we are going to be playing a 6-month game, and in this time you get to have a chance to jump onto Genius U together with 70,000 other entrepreneurs, where we are going to be connecting those in different United Nations global goals with each other. We're going to be tracking impacts through giving impacts together with Buy One, Give One. We're going to be tracking our income. And we're going to be ranking it by city, ranking it by a global goal, ranking it by your circles. So it's simple, it's free to join, and more importantly, it allows all of us to be able to connect with each other, from everyone, from entrepreneurs that are seasoned entrepreneurs, where you might already have multiple businesses, through to students who are actually just learning entrepreneurship and how to get started as well. So the power of this is our ability to be able to work collectively together to play this game. I'm going to be sharing more about this in the upcoming episodes of Entrepreneur TV, and at the same time we're going to be going through every one of the steps so you actually can 10 times your income and 10 times your impact in the year ahead. So really looking forward to it. I hope you are too, and I will leave you with these amazing views right now of Prague at sunrise here in the Czech Republic.